Welcome to the Inspection Empire Builder podcast. On today's episode, we're hanging out with JT in Central Florida, talking all things inspections. You don't want to miss it. And welcome to the show. I'm so glad you tuned in today. Today, we're hanging out with JT in Florida. JT, how you doing?
Hey, good, man. Good to see you again.
Yeah,
like I just saw you last week.
I know, right? We were just together at the IEB Unite conference in Orlando. Man, that was such a great conference.
Yeah, it was great. It's a great time of year. It was March. It's in my hometown of Orlando. And yeah, it was great seeing all my people. We're used to traveling to Texas or some of these other places. And so it was nice to just have it in my backyard.
Yeah, that's got to be nice. I think I'm going to lobby for a IEB Unite to be in Albuquerque one year, you know?
That would be amazing. It would be great to be able to go all around the U.S. You know, it's been centrally located in Texas. We've had some events in Florida throughout the years, but yeah, I know it was nice for me, right? Like traveling was just getting in my car and driving there.
That's how long of a drive from your house was it?
30 minutes. Yeah.
Okay. Did you stay at the hotel or did you drive home at night?
I had a hotel, so I kind of did a mix. But the funny thing is that with Orlando, there's like tourist Orlando, which is where we were at for the event. And then there's like Orlando. And they're big differences. Like we don't have gift shops on every corner in regular Orlando, but people see, they go to Disney, you know, and they get the feeling like this is just all Orlando. But I'm a little bit outside of Orlando in a city called Winter Garden.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, yeah, I guess, yeah, there's the Disney MGM or Universal. Right, there's all the roller coasters and the theme parks and stuff that are all right there. Yeah, that's true. And we were staying at a hotel that was right around the corner. So
yeah, but it was a great. Weather's beautiful. Seemed like everybody had a good time, and it was great seeing everybody's faces and being able to connect at those events. It's really like what it's about, right? Like we see each other on Zoom calls most of the time. And so just being able to be in front of people, to have those side conversations, like that's the magic of IEB, is just being able to connect and share information and talk about the speakers that just went up and be able to take all that stuff that we learn and bring it back to your business. And that's really that's the magic of it all. Like if you're not going to these events, you're missing out on 90% of the magic.
I agree. Yeah. And there's always the content from the stage that's impactful, but some of the biggest moments for me oftentimes happen, you know, in the social settings. You know, you're hanging out in the pool, or you're at the one of the bar, like cocktail hour, happy hour things, or you're at the dinner time and you're sitting at a table and somebody just drops some nugget of wisdom and then, you know, and you're like, wait, say more about that. That's exactly what I need to hear. And some of the biggest moments for me come in those like side conversations, just being in proximity with the right people.
Yeah, it's so true. It's like, the other thing too is it reduces the barrier of reaching out later. And so like rubbing elbows with some of the big inspection company owners, like when you're just first coming and they don't know your name, like the thought of having a conversation or calling, you know, somebody like Rob Lemoyne or, you know, somebody like that, like out of the blue is just crazy. Like you're not going to do it. But having those conversations and building a little bit of a friendship up, and it's like, oh man, I can text somebody and ask them a question. And it gives you that ability to like tap into that genius of that you wouldn't be able to, right? And just by having that drink with somebody or sharing some food with somebody or sitting down at dinner with a group of people, you become like friends at that point. And hey, let me get your cell phone number. And then you call them later when you're running into this issue with growth or marketing or whatever. And I think that like, that's the underrated side of it, because we think a lot of times, like in that technician mindset, it's like, oh, I'm paying this amount per month to go to this, you know, to a coaching program like IEB. But there's such intrinsic value in having those connections to be able to reach out that it pays for itself 10 times over easy. Like I know for me, that's how it worked. It's just like I've gotten so much valuable information that's changed the courses of my business by being around those people. It's crazy.
Yeah, no, I agree. I feel exactly the same way. And it does remove those barriers, because you see somebody on stage and you're like, oh man, I really like that. I feel like I resonate with that guy said, but you don't feel comfortable to like really reach out. But you know, and then you run into them in the hallway and you actually have a conversation and you realize, oh, they're human like me, you know, and they're not this like superstar legend. I mean, they're doing great things, but it just makes the connection so much better. What was some of the biggest takeaways you had at the conference this year?
Yeah. I mean, my takeaways, like our main speaker, Kristen, I think her name was, she talked about role and purpose and like the difference between the two. That was a really powerful conversation. And like we did an exercise where we wrote down what we thought our purpose was. Like I wrote down my purpose, and mine was tied into my raising my kids and, being that leader for them. And come to find out that is actually a role that I have, right? Like that's not my greater purpose in life. It is a purpose, right? Like I have kids and I need to raise them, but that's a role. My purpose needs to be bigger than that. And so that really got me thinking. That was really impactful. And, she shared her whole story too about her nonprofit that she runs. And it was a really, really good talk to start off the conversation of the convention. What was your thoughts on that discussion?
I loved that too. She is such a deep well. We recorded an episode on the show just recently, and cool. It should be airing right about now. And it was very interesting. On the podcast episode, it went very vulnerable. It was kind of strange. I don't know how it just opened that door for that, but we had this really like deep emotional conversation, and then on stage she just continued to present the same kind of concept of who are you, like what's your purpose, and she talks about that moment where she had a sabbatical, right? She'd been working really hard and she kind of hit a burnout stage, and the team was like, you need a sabbatical in order to kind of reset. And she's like, all right, I'm going to get in my car and I'm going to drive and I'm going to camp and I'm going to do. She had this like travel across America plan to go for 2 or 3 months, and it was just really cool. And she talks about the moment of climbing into her car and like driving away and being like, well, who am I? What am I going to do? Like, and she had this idea, like she'd been functioning in her roles for so much that, she's like, I don't really, like almost like an identity crisis of sorts. Yeah. And that's kind of, I think all of us can do that. We have a job, we have a role, and we put on these different hats. Like I'm a business owner, or I'm an inspector, or I'm a marketing person, or I'm a father, or I'm a husband, or a wife, or a mother, or whatever the different hats are in the different positions, and we carry those roles around. But underneath all of that is an underlying driving force, and taking the time to really dive deep into that and really think through that is pretty profound.
Yeah, I think that I don't know that she really touched on it too, but I think that part of the reason that we don't tap into that very well is because we're so busy. We always have something that we're doing. You look at people, and I'm guilty of it as well. Like you're standing in the line at the grocery store, right? Like you're a few people in front of you. What do? You pull out your phone, right? You start looking through social media, you start checking emails. Like we don't schedule ourselves enough like downtime where we're not constantly consuming stuff, and it helps us to stay distracted from figuring out what is our purpose and how are we living it out. Like we need that margin to be able to get creative and to figure out like, what does JT want in life, and how does JT want to live, and is he okay with living the way that he is living? And that new business idea, it's never going to come when I'm looking at other people's content and creation. And I think that that's a big part too. I love this saying, and I don't know if I've said it on this podcast before, but when you listen to music, it's not the musical notes, it's the space between the notes that make the music so pretty, right? Because you can play all the notes all at once and it's not going to sound anything like it. It's that space that we have between each note that actually creates the beauty of the music. And so it's the same thing with life. Like you have to have that space between this task and this task. And, I get off this podcast and I'm going to probably run into another meeting. And it's like, I could probably take 5 to 10 minutes and sit and like remember what you said and remember what I brought up. Maybe there's some things that I need to take action on, and I make some notes. And like just having that space in life, I think, is one of the biggest things, to be able to have that bigger thought picture kind of, thing going on in my head, to where it's not just task complete, move on to the next things, go to sleep. Right.
Yeah, no, for sure. And, I mean, do I really need to beat the next level of Candy Crush right now? I mean,
maybe.
I don't know. Maybe. Yeah. Get the next. I don't know. Yeah. Do I need to beat that? Yeah. I don't know. Like whatever game you play, and it's, or do I really need to like make sure that I know what's going on Instagram or TikTok right now? And it is interesting. You bring up such a valid point that we just are so used to filling our time. And I think with this thing in our pocket, it makes it real easy to just pull out and consume space. And it didn't used to be that way, and so, to be intentional about putting the phone in the other room, and maybe sit with a notebook and journal, That's why I think journaling is such a great practice and a great art. Kristen really talked about diving deep into that side of yourself and like, well, who are you? You know, and she had that expanding ball as that illustration, and that like really resonated with me. Of like, wow, like how I've been battling with this a little bit. It's like, at least over the last few years of my life, I've had to really learn, like, man, I don't want to shrink myself down to fit into other people's boxes. And so that expanding ball, and she's kind of making that illustration, it kind of made me think about like, man, it's how do I really reach all my potential and really be everything that I can be, and that maybe God's designed me to be. And it takes stopping and pausing and really taking that time to really just figure out what your actual purpose is in life. Yeah. And I don't know if I really have that nailed down for myself right now. I've been really stewing on it ever since she talked about it.
Yeah, I don't know that I do either. I don't feel like I have it concrete yet. I do know that for me over the last year or so, it's really been a big effort of mine to figure out like what do I get enjoyment from? Because like my businesses are doing well, and I got a lot of enjoyment growing those businesses, and I still am, but it's changed a little bit. Like it's not as like earth shattering, right? When I reach that next level, and it's all great. Like I love building businesses. I love creative work. I love all that kind of stuff, but it's like, what fills me up as a person? And so I'm working right now on like the area of enjoyment for myself, because you know, having kids, having a family, like you stuff all that stuff away. You forget what do I even like doing? And so I have a running note that anytime I remember something, even from my childhood that I liked doing, I try to bring that back into my routine. Like I loved coloring. I don't know. Did you like coloring when you were a kid?
I did. Yeah.
Yeah. Everybody loves coloring, I think.
Yeah.
But like, we don't do that anymore as adults. And so even just having that time where you can sit down and just color on something, you know, and color, they have these cool, you know, workbooks now for adults or coloring books, and just doing something like that brings you back to your childhood and brings you the joy. The other thing I did too recently, which I know the pickleball's kind of like been a thing for a while, but I actually played it for the first time last week. I think it was the week before.
It's fun.
Oh my God, it was so much fun. I was running all over the place. I was with my friend. We had a good time. We rented the court for an hour, and we had such a good time. I had such a good workout with it. I was drenched in sweat, and I was like, man, I need to do this again. So, you know, just by stepping out on a limb and saying, okay, I'm going to set some time aside in my schedule. It was 9:00 on a Wednesday. I was able to do this because I have a business that can actually support that, right? Yep. I was able to go play pickleball with them, and I had the most amazing time, and I'm already thinking about my next time. And another thing I love doing too that brings me a lot of enjoyment is wake surfing. Like we've got a lot of lakes here in Orlando and Central Florida. And so I found that I really am pretty good at wake surfing. Like I love it. You get behind a boat that has this huge wake and you're basically surfing on this wave, and it's so much fun. And so for me, it's like that type of stuff, it fills me up so that I can show up better for my kids. I can show up better for my business. I'm in a better mood. I'm more creative, because like when you're doing that kind of stuff, you're not thinking about, oh God, I got to pay this bill, or I've got to, you know, go to run these errands. Like you're living in the moment, whether it's surfing or playing pickleball or doing something else. Like you're in that moment, and it unlocks all this potential in you. And I really feel like that's kind of where I'm living right now. Is I need to figure out how do I get more of that in my life, because I know it pours over into everybody else.
Yeah, that's so true. I'm part of a country club here, and they have a pickleball group, you know, and so I thought, I'm gonna go try pickleball. So went out on a Saturday morning, and you know, and I'm pretty active, I'm pretty fit, and you know, and I'm pretty athletic, and so I'm showing up here. I'm realizing I'm the youngest person out here. Like, you know, I'm in my 40s, and I'm looking around, and they're all in their 60s and 70s. Like they're a little quite a bit older, like my parents' age. And so I'm walking out there, and like I've never played pickleball, but I was like looking around in the room, and I was court, and I'm just like, oh, this is gonna be great. Like I'm gonna mop the floor with these people, you know. And no way, like this 70-something-year-old lady out there is just whooping me. I just cannot beat this lady. And you know, she's out there with knee braces on and all the stuff on, like, you know, like, and I'm just like, Grandma, like, what are you doing to me right now? You know, and
be nice to me.
I know. I was like, take it easy on the young guy, you know, and yeah, they didn't. And so I played a bunch of times now, and these old guys guys, they give me a run for my money, you know, and it's a fun sport.
Yeah, it's really fun. Yeah, I'm definitely into that right now. And like I said, though, like a big part of it is because I'm able to create a business. If I was just a solo inspector doing this on my own, it would be very hard to fit that kind of stuff in. Because I remember being back in the day, and it was, I would wake up, I would finish reports in the morning from 5 till 7. I'd eat some breakfast. I'd leave for inspections all day. I'd come back. I'd have reports to do. I'd have to get cleaned up. I'd want to go to the gym or something. It was just like nonstop from 5 to 11 every day. And on weekends, I would want to work on the business and build up the business. And so like having the team that we have, like we have over 40 people between both of my main companies. It's able to provide me with that. But I think a big part of it too is not getting so disconnected either from the business to where it's like, I still don't get that creative outlet. I don't want to be an absentee owner either. You know, like I still want my people to know that like I'm there and like I was in the trenches with you doing this kind of stuff. And so I think that brings some added value, but I can see how easily it would be to build up a business too and just be like, hey, I'm just like going to go live my life. And then the business falls apart too, because you're not keeping an eye on it. So I'm in that space where, you know, I don't really have like a general manager running things. I've got some really high level leaders that take care of everything, you know, in their departments, but I'm still kind of in that role and I'm happy with it though, too. That's the thing is like, I'm very happy in that role that I am right now. But it affords me all these other opportunities to be able to go play pickleball at 9 o'clock on a Wednesday.
Yeah.
I'll talk to you right
awesome.
now at 1 p.m. in the afternoon.
Right. Recording a podcast. So, hey, how many companies do you have right now?
So I have 2 main businesses. They're both S Corps and they're individual, but I've got Central Florida Building Inspectors and we do residential and commercial. And then I have my mold company, Elite Mold Services, and we do mold and indoor air quality testing. And those are our main entities. Under CFBI, we have created a separate brand called CFBI Commercial, and that is handling all of our commercial needs. It's about a $500,000 company. And then I also created another division under CFBI for pool leak detection. And so we're doing pool. We always have done, like as a home inspector, you kind of need to know pools, right? So you do a standard pool inspection. A few years ago, one of my inspectors, he's now our services manager, came to me and was like, hey, I think we should start doing advanced leak detection. And so I was like, hey, that's great. You know, I'm in Florida. Every house has a pool, right?
Right.
And that's always the one thing, like, does my pool work and is it leaking? And so we were able to answer with our normal home inspection, it doesn't work. You know, your filter's leaking, you got a broken motor, pipes busted, whatever. But very few people are able to give that information on if the pool's leaking. And so we created that division to help separate it out. We're still doing most of the work in CFBI as my home inspectors do it, but you know, it's advanced, right? Like we're getting $4,000 to $5,000 pieces of equipment that are hydrophones. We do pressure testing, leak detection, dye testing. We're doing a full leak detection, short of going in the pool and swimming around in it. We haven't gotten there yet, but yeah, we're doing that. And so that we're averaging, we've been tracking it for the last year. We're averaging about 12 to 15 advanced pool leak detections every week. And so I feel like that's really confident. I'm confident enough now at this point that we can create a separate position and a separate company. And my goal is to add repairs in as well. So I just have to find my who, get the right guy that has his contractor's license, and we can have, you know, my team of inspectors still doing the leak detection. We can have our pool contractor that I'm going to hire do the repairs. He can also do leak detection. And I think it'll complement the home inspection company well. So technically 4, I guess. And then I have my coaching business that I'm running as well for IEB. And I just announced it at Unite, but I'm doing one-on-one coaching, taking a few clients every quarter or so and doing some one-on-one personal coaching. My goal with that too is to really find those businesses that are maybe struggling to hit the $1 million mark or hit the $2 million mark. And, you know, they just need structure. They need some fine tuning, some tweaking in their systems, or you know, an owner that's getting periodically pulled back into the field because he's just not quite there yet. And like, I want to get him over that hump to where it's like, okay, I don't need to go back in the field anymore. I'm going to focus solely on running this business. So that's what I'm doing right now.
Oh, I love that. Yeah. That getting over that hump of getting out of the field was a tough one for sure. Yeah. So how do you do time management, right? So you've got quite a bit going on. You still have time to go play pickleball and jump on a podcast with me. So, clearly you have some time management strategies or tools, or what are you doing to be able to keep all this in balance?
Yeah, I will say that I'm very disciplined and I'm very dedicated. So I think that I have that going for me because I've just always been that way. Like, I think if I was undisciplined, like I would find so many excuses to not do what I needed to do. What I have found though, is that I've audited my days and I've audited my weeks and I figured out like what's my 20% that I really need to be working on. Like I did an audit on my whole schedule for 2 weeks. I wrote down every single task that I was doing, right? It could be the text to the inspector. It could be the email to the agent. It could be the, website remodel or, redoing that I was doing. I wrote down everything that I did and I said, what is the 20% of the stuff that I actually need to be doing as the business owner? And the 80% of it, I had to offload it to somebody else. So I will say that my time management is the way that I'm able to manage everything is I'm very laser focused on what I should be working on so that I don't get caught in the weeds, right? The 20% though, I do really well and I do it effectively. So it doesn't take all day. I don't need 40 hours a week to do what I do to run these businesses. If I do it properly in like a condensed version, I can get it done in 10 to 15 hours. Really. There may be some other stuff that pops up here and there, but I'm not. So like getting 10 hours worth of work in a week is pretty doable. And then gives me the time to do it, but I'm very laser focused. I don't get the distractions going on when I'm doing stuff. I have good systems and processes. I don't know. Have you ever read Getting Things Done by David Allen? It's an old book.
I haven't read that one. No.
So it's a really interesting book. It's a little dated because of just the way that he's not talking about iPhones and, computer laptops and that kind of thing. It's like old kind of style of systematizing information that comes into your brain and putting it into some sort of system and process. And it was a really good book for me because like as business owners, especially, we have all of this stuff coming into our brains. The call that I have to make when I get into the car, I have to write this report. This client called me for a redo on one page because I messed something up, right? Everything's coming into our brains and it's just like ping ponging around in there. So one of the biggest things that I was able to kind of calm everything down is to get it out of there and put it into a system, right? I used to use my email inbox as like my to-do list. You ever do that where you get an email that comes in and it's like, okay, I'm going to leave that unread and I'm going to get back to it later. Like I think everybody's done that. And
at one point, yeah.
Yeah, it's ineffective because somebody's going to mark it as red. You're going to accidentally hit it as red. So, but all that stuff lives in your head. It rents space and it causes you to not be able to focus on what you're doing. It gives you anxiety. And I'm a little prone to anxiety in life. So I have to get all that stuff out of there so that I can clear my head. And so I'm a big fan of I use iPhone and Mac products, but like the Reminders app, it's a really good tool to be able to say, hey, when I get in the car and I connect to Bluetooth next, remind me I need to call Susie with Remax. Or when I get home, just geotagging, but when I get home, remind me to, throw the chicken in the oven. Like you can do a lot of that stuff that is renting space in your head and put it into some sort of system. Even the email that comes in and you see it and it's like they need something from you. Maybe it's a report request or something. Like you have to put it in a system. And so being very specific about what the information is, what you're doing with it when it comes in, and how you process it and how you get back to it and finish it is probably one of my biggest keys to my time management. Does that make sense?
That does make sense. And in fact, I'm like taking notes right now. This is exactly what I need to do with my life because my life is a little bit chaotic. I've got my home inspection business built up I have a general manager in place. And so, it's between 5 and 10 hours a week or so to keep that business running. Yeah. And we're about $2 million. And so we got a bunch of inspectors and things are going really well. And then I also, now I'm doing the IEB podcast, that takes me, probably another like eight hours a week or so of work for me to keep this thing going, and then so it's like a part-time job. And I do it for free, actually. It's just fun for me. And so it's like one of my hobbies. And then but then now I'm doing coaching. I do one-on-one coaching like you're doing. And then I've been speaking at conferences more, which I really love speaking, public speaking. It's one of like people's top fears, I guess, but I really love it. So speaking at conferences, doing all that. And then, I have another project, another greenhouse that I'm invested in that takes some time to, not a lot, but maybe a couple, 3 hours a week. But I have a few different projects going as well to be able to like keep things together. And so I love that the tip on the reminders app. And you're so true with you put it in your brain, like, oh, I'll do that later. That sits there and takes up energy and takes up space. And so to get it out and put it down on something, like the reminders app or an app like that is really helpful. I also keep a little journal next to my bed. And so whenever I'm falling asleep and that thought, oh, make sure you don't forget this. Yeah. I literally have a pen and a paper right next to my bed, and I turn on the light and I sit up and I just like quickly write down the notes on it, and I'm able to get that out of my brain so I can fall asleep. Yeah. And so there's power in that
though too, because it allows you to sleep better, and it has you have a system in place to know that you know what you need to do, or at least where to look, so that when you wake up the next day, you're like, what was that? But generally the act of writing it down is going to help it stick more. But people don't realize how much stuff is just living up there that we think that we are handling and managing, right? But it's just living up in our head, and it's not good. Like like going back to our beginning of our conversation, it takes away from that creativity that we need in life to be able to think of that next business idea, or think of, something else personally that may be going on or coming up that I could show up better for. And, for me, like I have 3 younger kids, like I want to show up in the best version possible for them when I get home or when I'm with them. Like I need to be there and be present. And if I have all these things going on in my head, like I'm not going to be present because I'm going to be agitated. I'm going to be thinking about all this stuff I have to do. I'm going to have anxiety. And, and again, you can take things too. And one of the things that I like to do is if I can get it done in a minute or two, I just do it. I know we all do this, but like we walk past something and it's like, man, I really need to pick that up and put it away. Like just the simple act of going and doing it, it gets it out of your field of vision. You clear the palette for whatever it is. Maybe it's something on the stairs or on the kitchen counter. And so also even just like walking from room to room, you can can't make it a game, but you say like, okay, when I go into this next room, I'm going to do one thing to clean up the room. And as you go throughout your day, right, then you end up cleaning the house. There's little things like that really just help, because the thought of like, oh God, I got to clean my house now and it's going to take 5 hours to do it. Like you can do this stuff as we go. And it's the same thing with life. It's the same thing with personal life. It's the workout. I could do a 20-minute workout and do that every day, or not do it at all because I can't find an hour or 2 hours to fit in for the week. Right. And so there's so many different things that we can do with business building. I can take 20 to 30 minutes every morning and dedicate it to a certain part of my business. Maybe it's finances on Friday, social media on the weekends, right? On Monday, it's motivating my team, whatever that is. But I'm not spending 5 hours on it. I'm just spending 20 to 30 minutes, and just the cumulative effect of that over a year, over 2 years is mind blowing. And that's really like one of the secret sauces to building a successful business. It doesn't happen overnight. You know that, Matt. Like it's not just going to you're going to wake up and everything's great. It's because of that compounding effect of like, okay, I did this action and I kept doing it and I kept doing it. And you're not going to go to that realtor event and do one presentation and get 1,000 inspections from it. Like it's the consistent showing up and doing it and shaking hands and, making friends. And it's a lot. But regarding time management as a whole, like it's just something that you're either really dedicated and you're really focused, or you're not, and you need to be. And you can't have that lifestyle that you want if you're not going to be dedicated to that craft, because it really is like, it's something that you have to be super intentional about.
Yeah, I agree. And you're right. I don't have an hour and a half to go to the gym, right? I don't have an hour to go to the gym. But I actually have some weights at home now, right? So I end up buying some dumbbells and a little bench, and it's not nearly enough to really get a heavy workout in, but I have enough there now that like I can do something. And so, even just being like, get up in the morning and be like, oh man, I don't have time for the gym today. Just drop and do 20 push-ups real quick, turn around, do 20 sit-ups, get up and keep moving, and so just like taking little time blocks And what? I don't have an hour to go to the gym. What do I have? I got 15 minutes right now. All right, I can knock out some push-ups. I can turn around and do some sit-ups. I could do some squats. I could do some lunges or whatever around, like just right there for 15 minutes. Okay, 15 minutes done. It's not a full workout, but it's a little something. And you're better off doing a little something every day than putting it off and never getting it to it.
Yeah, I came from the CrossFit world, and man, that would like teach you some things. Like you could have a 5-minute workout that would lay you out. Like if you have the right, structure to it, I would die at some of these workouts that were 5-10 minutes long. And you're like, 5 or 10 minutes, like how could it be that bad? And it's like, no, it can be really bad. Yeah, it can definitely be really bad. So I appreciate that. And I think that it's something that, you can't expect to have a 6-pack or to have this great long life of health if you're not willing to put in that kind of effort to say, hey, I'm willing to, do a quick workout and stay flexible and do some stretching afterwards. And like, again, whatever you're looking to have. I think that people just lose that fact that I need to keep working on this consistently in order to have what you want at the end of it.
Absolutely. And so you can take that same principle and apply it to your marketing or your operations or your organization or whatever, all the different aspects of running a business or even parenting, or even, if you're married to having a spouse and working on that relationship, or, it kind of works all the way across the board of, you might not have the 2 hours to do what you think would be the ideal thing, but how much time do you have and can you move the needle a little bit? And I think just little at a time. And like you said, the cumulative effect of that, by the end of the week, it's like, well, I could have gone to the gym one time for an hour, but instead I only had 20 minutes, but I did 20 minutes every day. And by the end of the week, you're like, I actually did more exercise this week by just stacking 20 minutes every day than if I'd just gone to the gym twice, And I think
for sure.
Yeah. And so I think applying that to all the areas of your life and I'm a big fan of setting up a timer too. I'll be like, okay, I got 20 minutes and I put a timer on my phone for 20 minutes. I'm like, I'm just going to focus on this one thing. And any other thoughts that come in my head, I just resist the temptation to like want to jump from task to task, and it's like, and I just ignore it. And by putting a timer and setting it and saying, okay, for 20 minutes, I'm going to do this thing. Then alerts come on my phone, notifications pop up, new emails are sliding in. I'm able to focus and ignore it all because I know there's an end that's coming. And so it's like almost becomes a game for me. It's like, how much can I do in 20 minutes in this one area?
Yeah, that's really cool. It's amazing though when you do stuff like that. It's very similar to like meditation when you're sitting there and it's that constant barrage of thoughts. Like I need to think about that, and it's like no, I need to get focused. It's the same thing with distractions. You remember stuff in those moments. It's like, oh, I got to do this, and it's like no, I need to stay focused. It's almost like a mental gymnastics that you're having to do to stay focused. Yeah, it's really wild. Cal Newport, I like a lot of his stuff. I don't know if you've ever read it, but Deep Work is really good. And he also has one, I think it's called Digital Distractions. And he just talks about like the actual mechanics and what goes on in our brains when we're distracted. And so it's really an interesting read. But yeah, I was thinking too, like what you were talking about earlier, there's a point though too, when you're talking about what you have to do, the cumulative effect. There's a point that you have to realize that you may need to hire somebody. And I think that, depending on who I'm talking to right now, you're either a smaller company, maybe you're doing 10 different things to run the company, like I did when I was running my company, when it was just me or I had a few people. There's an ability though to say, hey, I don't enjoy doing this anymore. I need to hire somebody to do it for me, and they'll probably do it better than you. Or like even just the time management side of things regarding my own personal life. Like it sounds kind of bougie, but I actually have a private chef that comes in and does meal prepping for me. And it's not like he doesn't hang out at my house all day, but he comes in for a block of time and he preps food for me that I tell him like, hey, I need this stuff done for breakfast, for lunch, and for dinner. And I have 2 options for each meal that I can just go and pick. I don't have to cook the food. I know what's in it. I have him make it, and it's relatively cheap. And like it sounds really expensive. It's really not. Like I pay for the groceries and I pay for his time, and it's done. And I have my whole week planned out for my meals. And if I have dietary restrictions, yeah, it's amazing. So you can usually find people that are willing to do that too, that like maybe they're chefs or cooks and they just need some like extra income. So stuff like that can be really helpful and really powerful to say like, I don't really enjoy cooking. I end up ordering Chick-fil-A or McDonald's or whatever, and it's like,
yeah, and that's not good for you.
Yeah, no. So just doing stuff like that, it really is. Dan Martell's really good with like buying back your time. Probably a
Yeah.
lot of people have heard of that, but there's a lot of those things that as you get bigger in business and you have more options from finances, like you can literally buy back your time to say, hey, I don't want to spend time cooking because I don't like cooking. I don't mind it personally, but maybe you don't like cooking or you're not going to do it. I need to figure out a way that I can have somebody do this for me. And it's, cost effective, but I get what I need out of it. And so just little tips like that. But when you're talking business, like marketing lane, I never liked going out and doing presentations. I was never that person. I can communicate well, I can present myself well, but I didn't like doing it. So it never got done. I would say, I need to go to this event. I want to go do this. And I was like, I don't think so. I'll hit the next one. Right. And so for me in my business, it was a game changer to have somebody that literally loved doing that kind of stuff. I taught them our message. I taught them what we do. They did ride-alongs with our guys. They could communicate our product very effectively. And then I let them out into the world of realtors and said, hey, go do what you do best. Go meet with them. Go explain our company. Try to get business and go do it. And they loved it, right? Like that's like their forte. And like just finding those kind of people throughout my business career has been the biggest game changer for me, because it's all that stuff wasn't getting done or it wasn't being done well. And so to find the people that can actually do it well, I want people that do it better than me, but at least doing it is a plus, because I wasn't even getting that stuff done.
Yeah, I know. I think that's the buying your time back, and then finding what you love to do and what you don't love to do, and replacing those pieces. I have a housekeeper. She comes every other week and cleans my house, but that's like a heavy clean, right? During the week, I can spot clean. I keep the kitchen clean. I can pure wipe there, but every other week having somebody come through and really go to town on the house is great. Yeah. I don't really want to. I love a clean house. I just don't like cleaning, and so I buy my time back. That's not the best use of my time. And if I do end up being the guy that does clean the whole house, deep clean, top to bottom, in and out. Like at the end of the day, at the end of that process, I'm kind of pissed off. Like I'm not happy. I didn't want to do it. I have to do it. I know I want it done.
The chlorine. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Right. So it's the same thing with landscaping, right? I have a landscaper that comes through every 2 weeks, and he comes and does. I can maintain the basics. I can keep up with the kind of the daily churn of keeping the yard clean and everything, but every other week he comes through and just does a heavy blowout of everything and make sure everything's trimmed up the right way. And so I'm kind of bougie like that too. I have a food process to what I do. But I actually have they have those programs that they'll ship you the food to your house already pre-done. And so I do that. And I have a box that shows up, every other week, and it has, food in it frozen, and it's just enough of the meals that I need to supplement my cooking. But I do the same thing, right? Where it's like, okay, how can I outsource, the bulk of it? I actually enjoy cooking, but I don't have the time for it all the time. And so being able to have some of those pre-prep meals show up to the house, every other week, I think, is when a box shows up, and I throw them in the fridge, and then I eat them when I need to. Having like getting a chef to prep it for you. I mean, you've got 3 kids, and so 3 little kids, and so like that's a lot more food and meal and prep work than what I'm dealing with. I have 2 kids, but one of them's 18 and one of them's 16, and they want to eat Chick-fil-A every day anyway. So, but yeah, they can. Their metabolism can handle that. But I feel like finding those things. Okay, what are those things that take energy from you that they need to get done? My time's better off spent doing other things. And I think as a business owner, it does give us because we do have a little bit extra money to work with in that sense. We have that cash flow, and we realize that I'm going to make more money being creative and coming up with my next business idea, or pushing the envelope on, maybe cleaning up operations, or pushing, marketing, or whatever it might be. It's like, man, the lane where every hour I spend in this one category is going to get me exponential return, and you want to find a place to like put that energy. So for you didn't like doing the meetings and talking. I love that stuff. Like I do all the growth activities in my business, not because I can't hire somebody, but because I still love doing it. And so I love going out and meeting and talking and doing all the face-to-face stuff. And I find a lot of joy in it, and it energizes me. answering the phones does not energize me. Doing an inspection doesn't energize me. So now I have my company built up where, I actually have a general manager, and then I have the different departments within the company. So I'm the top of the organization chart because I'm the owner, and there's a general manager, but then I'm filling a role underneath of him, underneath the general manager. So I'm his boss and he's my boss right now. And so it's kind of funny, but I love that piece of it. So eventually one day I'll have to hire somebody to replace me because my time will be more valuable somewhere else. But until that day happens, like, I continue to really love doing it,
Yeah. I think one of the biggest exercises that I did, I don't even know if I call it an exercise, but I just had this clear vision on what I wanted my life to look like personally. And I was able to say, okay, if I want to work out at 9:00 in the morning, and that's what I wanted to do, I want to take my kids to school and I want to pick them up. I want to be able to do this in the afternoon if I want. I have to build that business that's going to support it. And it did not look like JT was still doing inspections in the field, because as soon as I go out there in the field, whether I'm doing a mold assessment or a home inspection or a commercial building, like, we are like, all bets are off. My phone's ringing, clients need stuff, realtors need stuff. And it just created conditions that did not support what I wanted in life. And so for me, it was like, I had to get really laser focused on what I wanted my life to look like, and then engineer the business to support that. And I think for me, like, there are some guys that probably are hearing this that love doing inspections. I loved doing inspections until I didn't. And then when I didn't, it was like, okay, this has to change, because the JT that's showing up for the inspections is not probably the best one to show up. I need people that can show up better than me, because I'm getting frustrated with the seller and, like, that kind of thing. So, but that was 20 years in. I put 20 hard years into this line of work. Like, I did my time. But there's a point that I just didn't want to do a home inspection anymore. And so that was where I fortunately ran into IAB, because I had no idea that it was even possible to build a business in this space and not be in it and not do work in it. And so when I went to, like, one of my first IAB events, I saw actual business owners that were running businesses that did home inspections, and their business owner didn't even do home inspections ever. Like, he never had done one, or they did and they got out. Like, I was like, my mind was blown. I was like, oh yeah, this is amazing. Like, and so it was just like that power of possibility that I was presented by joining a coaching group like IAB, to say, like, oh man, this is possible, and I can have something really good. The other eye-opening experience too was that I had this moment a lot of times in the beginning where I was, maybe 3 inspectors or so. And I was like, I don't want a big business. I don't know if you ever went through that, Matt, but
I did.
I don't really want 20 inspectors or 30 inspectors. Like, I can't even fathom what that would be like. It sounds like a lot of work, but fortunately, I kept coming back, and I realized that, like, look, it doesn't have to look exactly like this person's business. I can actually create my own business how I want it. But it's something that, there was this one pivotal point. It's a book called Small Giants. I think it's Bo something. I forget his last name. But it's this concept that he wrote about. I think he followed like 7 or 8 different bigger companies that had this amazing thing going for them. They were small private companies. And an example is Cliff Bar. Everybody knows Cliff Bars. But they had this private company, and the guy was getting ready to sell to one of the bigger conglomerates like Nestle or, one of these guys. And he was literally at the signing table to sign the company over to this big company. He goes, you know what? He's like, I can't do it. He's thinking of his team. He was thinking of like what this vision that he had for his business and what he wanted out of it. And he decided not to do it. And then it blew up because he re-energized himself and got focused on the business. But there's intentionality too around remaining small, right? Like, you don't always have to build this massive business to, that's beyond your wildest dreams. Like, you can build this amazing smaller company and still love every minute of it and do what you do best. And that was just like a really eye-opening experience where I was like, it's okay to be small, but I have to be okay with the lifestyle that it presents itself and the possibilities that maybe I'm passing up on by keeping small. And so for me, it's like, we've always just kind of intentionally grown. It's my biggest thing is like, I don't grow sloppily. I grow with intentionality, and I do it a lot of times where I have to step out on a ledge and say, okay, like stepping out on faith and saying, I probably need to hire somebody, but I'm not 100% sure. But I feel like if we don't do it, like maybe things aren't going to work out so well, and like I'm going to regret it. So there's been a lot of those moments where I've had to really step out on a ledge and say, I think I need to do this, but I'm not 100% sure. And it's worked out for me pretty much every time.
Yeah. Those ledge moments are kind of scary.
Yeah.
But yeah, like when I started my inspection business, I actually owned a few businesses before, and I've owned some that grew pretty big. And when I started the inspection business, I was like, I don't want employees. I'm going to keep this simple. I'll just one-man operation, solopreneur. That's just what I was going to do. And I thought if I just do like 3 inspections a week, 4 inspections a week, I'm happy. Like my lifestyle's simple. I don't have many bills, and I was in a good spot. And I was like, it'll be fine. And so that way I started my business in the middle of 2019. 6 months later, I'm doing 3 a day, 6 days a week. It just exploded. And I was like, what the heck am I going to do here? And so I was at that fork in the road of like, do I hire people or do I raise my prices to like slow business down, and ultimately decided, well, I'm going to hire people, but I'm going to keep the team small. I'm just going to do a small thing. Like me and 3 other dudes, I did the math and I was like, I think a 4-man team in the field, 1 operations person. Yeah, we'll be fine. It'll be a good little thing, And so now here we are with like 9 people in the field and doing, over 2 million. And I've got a couple operations people, and the machine has just been growing and growing and growing. And it's one of those things is like, well, that wasn't my intention, but every time I came to a crossroad, it just made sense to like, you know what, maybe I can do a little more. Maybe I can do a little more. And I'm in that boat right now. I just hired 2 more inspectors. They're in the middle of training right now. And it's those leaps of faith of like, do we have the work to support 2 more inspectors? I don't know. And so I think we do. Like, we kind of ran the numbers. Like, I think we can do this. And so we brought on 2 more. And while they're in the middle of training, it's like, oh, we can definitely handle 2 more inspectors. Like we have enough work coming in for that. And
honestly, that was like, that's what keeps me motivated to keep growing the business too. It was like, I'm hiring these people and they're putting their faith and trust in me to provide work for them. It was like, okay, we got to get serious, guys. Like we got to get more business in. And so it's that motivating factor because it's that pressure that helps you grow, right? Like if everything's, like you're going to grow because of these 2 new guys in ways that you probably never thought, right? Because you actually have 2 new people that you have to keep their schedules full. So you're going to be willing to do that extra reach out. You're going to do that continuing ed class. You're going to do that presentation. You're going to be more hungry, just knowing you, like you're going to be more hungry to get those jobs coming in than you would be like, I'm going to pass on them. I'll just keep my company the same size. It's going to stay the same size at that point. You don't have any possibilities of growing. And honestly, you're going to probably backslide more if you don't hire those people because somebody's going to get hurt. Somebody's going to leave. Somebody's going to get a job relocation for their spouse. And there's just natural attrition that happens. So you have to be growing in this business. And so I commend you. That's cool. We had this moment too, like, I don't know how we did it. I think we trained 4 inspectors at one point in time. And it was like a big, like, oh my God, I didn't even know we were capable of doing that. Like having 4 trainees at one time, it was like a big deal. And like my team got wore out after it was all done, but it was like, man, we did it, guys. Like we have this ability to train 4 people at once. So it was pretty cool.
That is cool. Yeah. We've been doing 1 at a time. And then last year, we were like, the demand is so high. We're like, I bet we could do 2 more inspectors. Can we train 2 at a time? And so we talked about it. We're like, I don't know. I think. So we kind of mapped out a rough idea of what it would look like to train 2 inspectors at once. And we did it. And it's like, hey, that actually went pretty good. And so here we are grabbing 2 more again.
I love it.
Now you training those guys. And we're doing it better. We're doing it better this way, this time. And the last time was a little bit like some learning along the way. And this time now we're doing 2 at a time. And that's cool. And, and after we get to get these 2 out in the field, then it's going to be like, okay, well, we know we can do 2 at a time. Do we do 3 at a time or 4 at a time or, I'm not really sure, I haven't figured that out yet, but, and is there enough work for me to hire 3 more, 4 more? We're kind of we kind of dominate the market right now. And so it's like, how much more market share is there and how much more demand is there? And, can we really do this? And we'll see. But there's always, you got to like also plan for attrition, like you're saying, not somebody's going to leave. The odds are there. The more employees you have, the odds are somebody's going to leave. Someone's going to move. Someone's going to want to change careers. Somebody's going to want to do something different, and that's just life. That's how it goes. So I kind of feel like I have one to grow with, and one is to help absorb attrition if it were to happen. It's kind of how I look at it. But if I keep both of them, if I keep everybody, it's like, man, that's awesome too. I mean, I love my team. My team's incredible.
You don't want anybody leaving, but it's nice to have that padding there, because that's one of the things that, like, in that lower business range where you've got 4 inspectors, if one of them leaves, that's 25% of your workforce that's leaving. That's a huge hit, That's huge. And once you get up to your level, like, one guy leaves, it's 10%, right? Like, it's
10% of the workforce. It's not great, but it's not as big of a hit.
Yeah. And you're less likely to ever go back in the field at that point too, because it's like, you just know that, I just need to hire somebody now. Whereas if you're at, 3 inspectors and one of them leaves, it's like, you're going back out in the field because you've got that phone ringing, you've got agents, like, it's just that natural cycle. So I would say that that's probably the biggest encouragement. If you're getting burnt out, if you're wanting to change things, if you want to have that lifestyle, you got to get those inspectors built up, because it's really like, they're the source of the money here, right? Like, I mean, growth brings in jobs, but like, if you don't have inspectors doing the work out there, you're not going to grow. You're not going to grow from having a great marketing person if you don't have the inspectors to fill the need. And so I always look at inspectors as like my lifeblood for the business. Like, you've got to have inspectors, and you've got to have a good bench waiting too as well. Yeah. And that's one of the things we talk about in IEB. And through the RSTMM system of recruiting talent, and how do you recruit them and train them and select them and manage them, motivate them, and how do you build your team the right way? And that's something that is we talk about a lot inside of IEB. And you mentioned something a few minutes ago I want to go back to. So you were a solo inspector for 20 years. Is that what you said? Yeah, I mean, basically, like, it was my dad and I started in the late 90s, and then I took over the company in 2008, and it was just me for a long time. I hired my first guy in 2011, maybe. And then by the time I came to IB in 2019, I had three or four inspectors. So it was a pretty small operation for about 20 years.
Wow. And so you went from 3 or 4 inspectors to how many do you have now?
Oh, we just hired in the home inspection side of things. We have 23. We just hired the 23rd the other day. And then I've got 4 over in my mold company, hopefully hiring 5, the 5th one soon. So 28 total, 27.
Yeah, that's awesome. And that's a lot of growth in a short amount of time.
Yeah, it really is. But it's been intentional, right? Like I said earlier, it's been not sloppy. It's been really, we don't grow for the sake of growing, like just to hire inspectors. There was a big push back in the day, just like, you just got to hire, you got to hire, you got to hire. And it's like, people ended up having all these people on their staff when they didn't have enough work coming in. But I'm pretty good with like discernment and being able to decide like, okay, this is actually what the numbers are saying. Our call volume's up. We're turning down 10 jobs a week. Like, all signs are there that we need to hire. And then, through the years too, I've learned that, like I mentioned, and we talked about earlier, that attrition of like just somebody not doing this anymore, like you have to be prepared for it. And honestly, like the more that we hire, the more skill set we bring into the organization, the more leadership potential there is for people that are willing to step up. Like, it's just this like really cool cycle of like, okay, if I keep hiring people and I keep hiring people that are better than me at the job, then it just naturally creates this ecosystem of like, oh man, there's so much potential here. And we just changed our team leads because we wanted some new blood in there. And so we said, hey, who is interested? We talked to the team leads that were interested, and we've been building them. We actually brought them to Unite too. And we wanted them to see this world. And so it's just this constant pouring into people. I can't have businesses without people. And I want my people to be happy. I want them to show up and enjoy what they do. I want them to bring that enjoyment back home, because if we're not happy at work, we're bringing that back home, and it's affecting the kids and the spouse. So it's a lot of intentionality on our part, but it's something that I've had to cultivate over time too. It just didn't magically appear.
Right. Yeah. It isn't just a magic wand. Right. It's a lot of work to build a company.
It is. And honestly, like the biggest thing I can say is like, it's self-work too. Like, it's the work that I've had to put in as a business owner, as a leader, as a CEO. I have to lead this ship. And obviously whoever I hire is going to be a direct reflection of me. And so it's really been my growth as a person that's probably been the biggest factor in creating the business.
Oh, absolutely. And, like your culture of your business is a reflection of you as a person. And, you can write down statements, but if you're not embodying that as the owner and being that culture, like you'll end up reproducing who you are more than you reproduce like what you put on paper. And so whenever a company has a culture, if you have a cultural issue in your business, like, well, why is this like this? The first step should be, okay, let me look in the mirror and see, are there behaviors and things inside of me? Are there actions inside of me that could be feeding this, that I'm maybe not even aware that I'm feeding this situation? And being able to pause and reflect and go, wait a minute, okay, why is this attitude feel acceptable in the company? And it's really easy to go, well, that's because so-and-so is doing this and so-and-so is doing that. And that might be true. But I think also taking that moment to go like, what about me is allowing this to grow? And is there something, and maybe it's not you, but taking the time at least to sit and reflect on that and go, okay, because a company culture ultimately is a reflection of who we are as the owners. And then as you add people to leadership and management, it's a reflection of them as well. And so as you bring different people in, they impact the culture. For the business as well. And so you kind of got to be really careful about who you're bringing up in leadership. And then sometimes you see things manifesting and say, then maybe it's not me that's creating that environment, but maybe one of my leaders is.
Yeah.
And so then it gets into the character of the people and how are we recreating these spaces the right way. And when you have a really, really good culture, it makes strategy awesome, because culture will beat, like, in the beginning, especially when you're starting to get a company going, your culture is what's going to really dominate. And so you got to have your culture tight. And if you have a really great, awesome culture, and then you start adding strategy and systems and tools with a phenomenal culture, man, you just have explosive growth.
Yeah. I think that one of the last things we could probably talk about is just like, when you hire somebody, you can't expect them to be that person forever, right? Like you're dealing with people that have real life situations at home. They've got health changes. They're people as well, just like you are. Like people go through divorces, people go through, children getting sick. You have to look at these people as like, you can't just expect them to show up every day without checking in with them, without knowing what's going on. And so I think that's also been one of my secret sauces, if you were to call it that, is like I treat people like I would want to be treated if I was working at a place. Like I spend time, I get to know them. We have regular check-ins, not just about work. I don't need to know all about KPIs. Like I want to know how this person's doing at home. Like, is there anything that I need to be aware of? And so one of the sayings I love is you got to have your arm around somebody before you smack them upside the head. There's no correcting of anybody if you're in that position where you're looking down on somebody. You've got to be side by side with somebody if you're going to be growing something with intentionality, and also them being willing to talk to you about things, because I know there's so many people in businesses that are afraid to talk to their higher ups or afraid to talk to their coworkers about things. And it's like, I don't want that environment for my business. I know some things stay at home, right? And they stay with the pastor or they stay with their friends, and like, that's fine. But I want to generally know like how my people are doing. And I think they feel that, and I hope they feel that, because that's like, we're dealing with people. This is a people business. It's not just mechanics. Yeah.
I tell my team, I care about you more than what you do. And so it's like, okay, I care about you as a human being. And then, when I'm hiring guys too, especially the guys in the field, I tell them all, like, this is a young man's game. Like if you're 65, 70 years old and you're still crawling in crawl spaces working for me, like we did something wrong. Like, like let's like, I have multiple streams of income. You should have multiple streams of income. Like how can we start building your future outside of this place to where you don't have to keep working here, and so my guys make really good money. I pay very, very, very well, probably top in the industry. And so they're all making six figures working for me. And so it's like, okay, listen, like you're making a lot more money than you used to. Don't raise your lifestyle. Like if you buy a boat before you buy an investment property, I'm going to smack you. Like, you better buy investments. Take this extra money, put that money to work for you. Otherwise, you'll always work for somebody. You'll always work for me. You'll always work for the man. You'll never be able to stop. If you want to have a good life when you're older, you got to make sacrifices when you're younger. And so I'm always kind of trying to build up my team that way, and like, hey, make sure you're investing. And so then when one of the guys is like trying to buy a fourplex, everybody knows it, because he's like, I'm trying to buy this fourplex, and he's like, hey, I got this thing under contract. Well, now the entire team's super excited for him, because he got a fourplex under contract, and like everybody's like, I want to inspect it. No, I want to inspect it. And so it's so then we they all do it for free for each other, and so they go out and do the whole thing, and now it's like this funny thing. So anybody's buying a house, they all want to inspect it, and
it's awesome.
And they're all super excited for each other when people are making wins in their personal life. Everybody's cheering each other on, and it kind of created this environment, this culture of like, hey, hopefully everybody's doing this. Start building your future, start investing in your future. And it's like, hey, I care about you more than what you do. I care about your future more than your today. Like, sure, today you're kind of like whatever, this and this and this, but like, hey, let's keep this in light of like, and when you care about their future, you care about who they are as a human being, and you care about how they are perform as a father or as a mother, or as a husband or a wife or whatever else is going on in the world. It's like you get a bigger picture of who they are as a person, and then it's like, okay, we're in this together. And yeah, today you happen to be inspecting houses or doing mold tests or running a sewer scope, but that's not who you are. Let's make sure we're building you up as a human being to be the better version of you, and which loops us all the way back to the beginning of how we talked about Kristen opening up about our purpose. And it's which is like, I think my purpose is to build up other people, and I love seeing other people get built up, and I like seeing other people achieve their maximum potential, and which fulfills me. And that kind of purpose, I think, carries from role to role to role. Like with my father, I'm doing that with my kids. In business, I'm doing that with my employees. In coaching, I'm doing that with other business owners. And so it's something that really I love to do and loves to drive me.
That's awesome.
But you're doing, all right. So you mentioned something. You're doing some more one-on-one coaching. It sounds like you've learned a lot of lessons along the way. If someone wants to get a hold of you, whether it's for coaching or for anything else, what's the best way for someone to get a hold of you?
Yeah, probably through email. So I have my IEB email, which is jt@iebcoaching.com. Send me an email with your contact info. If you're interested in one-on-one coaching, I'm taking a few clients. I can email you back the link, and you can fill that out. However, if you just have some business related questions, you can always reach out to me as well, and we can connect. If you're not part of a community like IEB, you definitely want to join it, because the power in that group is unbelievable. And so hopefully you're listening to this and you're a member, but if you're not, you definitely need to join whatever level of business you are. Reach out to me there, and we can get the conversation going. I love helping people, like you just said, Matt. Like that's a big purpose of mine, is like, I just love helping people. And typical guy, but I love solving problems. Like that's a big thing. Is just like, it helps me feel better about myself. But I love looking at businesses too, and being able to like help people out, because I've been there, I've been there, I've done that, and I can usually see things at like 30,000 feet versus like in the weeds.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. Well, man, thanks for being on the show today. This was actually a really good episode. I really enjoyed it, and I look forward to seeing you again on the show in the future.
Cool. Thank you.